then I'll jump in with the Twitter handles and stuff like that, if you don't mind.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just say my name and whatnot, and then so don't say my name this time. Well, now we're gonna say it this time.
Justin, you want to go ahead and pause the recording until 9 o'clock?
This is the Junky Chunks, and we are going to do a show for you today on the Blab, and we want to thank them very much for having this wonderful site for us to, have a home to start this thing off. This is our third and final beta, I believe, or do we have one more left?
This is it.
And then we go live.
Right. So this is the last day of catastrophic errors and mistakes, I'm sure. So with that, Dylan, you want to introduce everybody in our Twitters?
Yeah, absolutely. So making up the chunks, we've got Tony. Tony's you can reach Tony at DrunkyChunk on Twitter. As you can tell, he's already getting started. We've got Justin. Justin, you can reach out to Justin on Twitter at MintyChunk, MINTY Chunk. Funny. I didn't know what he was doing when he created that one. You can reach me at Dylan Chunk at Twitter. And of course you can reach us. Our entire group is Junky Chunks. So that is at Junky Chunks on Twitter. We're also available on Facebook at Facebook.com/Junky Chunks. So we'll go ahead and get that stuff out by the end of the show as well. But we're the Chunks.
We are the Chunks. And just to kind of get things kicked off here, I listen to a lot of football radio, and it's that time of year where we're talking about it a lot. And the first thing that comes to my mind right now is actually not the Super Bowl. Surprise, surprise. But I've been thinking a lot about this Johnny Manziel thing. And if you're not aware of what's going on, Johnny Manziel is going to be cut at the start of the league year by the Cleveland Browns because of his off-the-field problems. Just a quick rundown. He's late for meetings. He is flying out to Vegas and posting crazy pictures, and just not being a great representative of the league, which culminated actually in he lost his starting job, and they said he was late to a meeting. It was actually because he showed up drunk and they kicked him out. That was the one.
Well, they were saying that they were thinking that it wasn't drunk, but he was definitely on something.
Yeah, he was intoxicated in some regard. Yes.
Right.
But the thing that really got me thinking about this and why we need to talk about it is I know both of you guys have some kids, and one of the most poignant things I've heard from this is his dad said that if his son does not get help, he'll be dead by the time he's 24.
Yeah.
And I just wanted you guys to weigh in and say what maybe you thought on that as fathers. And I have an opinion too, but I'm not a dad, so maybe it's way off base. So.
Yeah, well, I can tell you it takes a lot for a parent to say something like that about their own kid. It's
definitely
it's absolutely insane. And I know that he's reached out to the league, the team, the NFL as a whole, and the community as a whole, trying to find a way to get help for his son. But it's as a father, it would be terrifying for me. Any of my kids, My wife and I, we have 6 kids. We breed like fucking rabbits. But the fact of the matter is, I couldn't imagine if one of my kids, if I had to reach out to the public, or if I had to reach out to, my son's employer to seek help for him that he won't otherwise seek for himself. And you look at the career that Manziel had, his prolific college career, the awards that he won, the games that he played in, the promising career he had as a rookie in the NFL. And you look at what he's done, and he's just, for lack of a better term, he's just fucking pissed it all away. He really has. And you just don't see someone with that much fucking God-given talent who just watches it all go away. And so as a father, that would be heartbreaking for me. It would be unbelievably heartbreaking for me. I know, Justin, you probably have similar opinions, but I'd like to hear them.
Yeah. A lot of people are going to find out of the three of us, I'm probably the most what should I say, Dylan? Religious?
Religious? Ethically non-corrupt? Yeah, probably.
All I can think about is a place in the Bible where it talks about training up your children the way that they should go so that when they're older they don't depart from it. So the concept there is you basically instill everything that you can into your children while they're young, and you hope that the things that you teach them are going to prepare them for when they're on their own, because by the time your child becomes an adult, I can totally see how Johnny's dad is kind of pushing that off on somebody else. Like, if somebody doesn't find help for Johnny, or you don't come around him and find him help, he could be dead before he's 24, because obviously whatever his dad taught him, whatever he learned in their home, he didn't hold on to it. And that's scary for any adult parent that has a child that's an adult. I don't know how his dad can break through the fact that he's on his own and he's his own star and actually reach him now, beyond it, pulling him privately and smacking the crap out of him.
Yep.
And you don't really get anywhere with that. He's going to kick back and be his own man. And apparently he didn't learn that every choice he makes has consequences. And whether they're good consequences or bad consequences, you end up owning those just as much as you end up owning the choice you make.
Mm-hmm. And well, I think Dylan really keyed on it. The thing I thought of, and the verb I thought of, was terrified. Right? Yeah. This guy's dad is so scared that he can't hold it in anymore. He can't just try to carry the load for his son anymore. He needs, like Justin said, to find people to help. And I'd say with the pushing it off on, I guess that's not necessarily the way I see it. He's not saying I can't deal with, I don't want to deal with this anymore. He's saying I just can't carry it anymore. I need someone to help me carry this and get it figured out, because I don't want my kid to die. That's how all of us become immortal, is by having children and raising them. So I think
that was reverb.
It was something weird, but but yeah, I just I'm thinking about the kinds of things that Johnny must be going through personally. Not necessarily.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, you're fine. Okay. And not necessarily the consequences that he's facing, but the choices he's making are actually not a person trying to have fun. It's actually someone crying for help.
Yeah, and Tony, I can't agree with you even. I mean, that's just an absolutely perfect opinion. Yeah, and it does come down to that. It's the choices that he's making. Like I said before, he's had all the opportunities in the world handed to him, through his talent, through his ability to play, through his parents' support of him, through his family support of him, the coaching staff, the teammates that he's had. I mean, you look at fellow Texas alum, one of my favorite players in the league, Von Miller, put out that tweet after the Super Bowl saying, I hope you get help. I remember, it took others helping me and giving me that chance to help me get to where I'm at. And, when you see great players like Von Miller and other teammates of his reaching out to him, I saw just an absolutely great blab yesterday with I'm going to butcher the name. He's a Dallas Cowboys player who was on Blab doing a recap of the Super Bowl as well. Tony something or another from the 92-93 team. No. They're defensive linemen.
Baselli? He wasn't on he wasn't on the Cowboys, was he?
I'm talking the Cowboys team. But anyway, it was an absolutely incredible blab, and he even talked about that he knows that he's a talented young man, but he absolutely needs to get the help necessary to to correct the situation that he's in. But he's got so many more problems than just the drugs, the partying, the alcohol and stuff like that. I mean, you know, there's to me, it seems that there's no reason he's not in jail right now. I mean, the fact of the matter is he smacked the crap out of his what is it? His
girlfriend.
His girlfriend.
The person he'd been seeing, ex-girlfriend, current girlfriend, I don't know. But he you know, no matter what the issue is on the field or with his playtime that's going on, or his lack of playtime or what have you, he has much bigger problems. I mean, this is a serious situation where yet again we see another high-profile NFL player in the news for domestic violence. This is a problem much bigger than just his inability to control himself. It's how the league is handling this stuff as well.
So I want to cut in real quick and ask a question, because a lot of people here are going to find out I'm not a big sports guy. So in other jobs, in other careers, in other sports, it seems like there's support groups or like clubs or organizations that come alongside players to help them deal with issues. Is there anything like that with the NFL? Maybe that isn't sports related, but they work alongside sports?
Yeah, the NFL has, especially over the last year and a half, with the incidents of domestic violence, child abuse, things like that have come to the forefront, especially with the sponsorships that they have. You see a lot of programs available for players. The Players Union has things available, and not to mention, you know, counseling, rehab, things that the player can take upon himself. I mean, you know, you can't just leave it up. You know, if I had to leave it up to my employer to do things for me to get me motivated in the right direction, stuff would never get done, right? I mean, sometimes we have to take that self-accountability and do the right thing on our own. And I think that Johnny Manziel has to take that more than anything that Roger Goodell does or anything that the front office with the Browns does or whatever team wants to pick him up or take a chance on him. But right now, especially with the domestic violence, the battery, possible battery charge looming over his head, with the possible civil suit looming over his head, and with his off-the-field antics, I mean, this guy's promising career is quickly just going away. You know, and he's got to do something and take it upon himself, because come, what is it, March 9th, before the start of the next season, they're going to cut him. League year starts. Yeah, so they'll cut him to make sure that they don't have to pay that guarantee. That what is it, 17
The only reason they're actually
like
waiting is because of financial reasons. At this point, it would be a harder hit to their financials than it would be another month. But
absolutely.
Personal experience, I can say that there's two things going on here in my mind with it. Is first of all, a lot of the stuff he's doing extracurricular is it's a way to make himself feel better about something. You know, there's something really bothering him in life, and a lot of pain, something something that he just holds over his head and lets him get crushed by it, and that's the only way to feel better, is to be in the company of other people that feel just as much pain as you, and are drinking or smoking or snorting it or, fucking it away. And, at the same time, with the help, when you were saying, Justin, that maybe the league needs that. Yeah, they do. If they don't, they do need it, because there needs to be a refuge for people to go anonymously and get help, because they're in a high profile position. They don't need that kind of attention, that they are seeking help for depression or anxiety or suicidal ideology, or
that was the reason
all that different stuff.
I brought it up, because like working for the government or even possibly Verizon or other companies that people work for that are corporations or government related, they seem to have a lot more things attached to your health insurance that are like, if you need help, you can call this number, and there's certain counseling afforded to you. I know working for the USGS, that's something that is included with the insurance. I don't know about sports entertainment, though. Do they have...
They've got outstanding
similar
plans. I mean, their insurance is paid for by the league, obviously, medical, anything.
Where they're getting something that says, if you're dealing with XYZ, call this number.
Well, and the funny thing is, if you were to pull up the Cleveland Browns website, which you could probably do right now if you wanted to, but if you were to pull up their website and look at their staff directory, you're going to see probably 10 or 11 medical staff, including a psychologist on staff. So they not only have great insurance plans, obviously, which are provided for by the league and by the team that they're playing for and through the Players Association, but also in the front office themselves, they have they have those things available to them. The problem is, if you can't get a guy to show up to a team meeting on time, if you can't, and I agree with what Becklin said, if you look at the fact that you have to admit that there's a problem first, and I think that that's more to the core of what Tony's talking about and what Johnny Manziel's dad is talking about, is he's reaching out to others because his son doesn't want to admit there's a problem. His son doesn't want to admit that he's going to end up, completely either out of a job, or dead by the time his next birthday comes around. And I think that's more important. But I think it goes even deeper than that, and I think it's the entire culture with how we look at stuff in the NFL.
It's not just the NFL; it's professional sports.
It's professional sports in general. It's the fact that you're not requiring college degrees anymore, so people aren't getting that mentoring. The fact that these athletes are part of a program that they virtually run year round now, so they're not actually paying attention in the classes that they have. Now there are the exceptions. There are the Richard Shermans that were 4.0 students at Stanford, that were just absolutely incredible students and athletes and didn't get a degree in basket weaving. He actually took the time to get his degree in something that matters.
Still useful. Basket's
nice. I mean, basket weaving, Do
they still have peer review? Does peer review even exist?
It depends on what company you work for.
I mean, with sports, there something like peer review?
It's called ESPN. It's called every sports radio station. Are you talking
about
in the thing?
No, amongst the players themselves.
Well, and that's
where they could recommend, hey, you should talk to so and so. They're going through a hard time. Don't know what it is, but shit's getting real. Before shit gets so real that.
But how often is that? How often do we do that? I'm not saying us specifically. I'm just saying other tight-knit circles in general. How often do they go to each other and say that?
Right.
Like, hey, man, I see you haven't been feeling so great. What's going on? Do you want to talk? Because guess what? We're scared.
Do we want to go back? I mean, we could go back to Applebee's and have those kinds of talks on the show. I think we had people that we worked with that we did do that.
We absolutely did. But I think what this comes down to is you've got a group of 53 players, 20 coaches, 15 coaches, whatever it is, all the front office staff in the world, millions of fans. And like Tony said, ESPN and talk radio and everything like that. There's all of that available out there. And he has teammates, but those teammates, they're probably, he doesn't seem like the kind of guy that draws a lot of friendships amongst the people that he's working with, simply because he doesn't show up. When he does show up, he's just a giant fucking turd.
He's inebriated of some
He's
kind,
inebriated. He's on drugs. He's, they said that they put him on concussion protocol for that last meeting that he missed because he was giving symptoms that were reminiscent of a concussion. So they put him on concussion protocol, and he wasn't cleared until January 12th or something like that.
That's a pretty high BAC right there.
Yeah. I mean, that's just incredible. Whether it's blood alcohol or whether it was, fucking what was who was that player for Denver a couple years ago that liked the Mollies? Wes Welker. Yeah. He was doing all kinds of stuff like that too.
Hey, you gotta go to the club. You gotta get your dance on.
Yeah, but when you've got a player like that, you're not liked by the team. You know, he didn't have the big C on his chest. You know, he wasn't the team captain. You know, he'd never earned it. Exactly. No one would have voted for him for that. No one would have given him that award.
First thing you do when you're coming out of college and you trademark a cliche nickname, your priorities aren't very straight when you're trademarking Johnny Football so that you're the only one that can cash in on it. You know, obviously, you're building a brand, but at the same time, your priorities probably aren't very straight if you're more worried about what two words put together will do for your finances than actually being productive and being the role model that I feel like a lot of NFL players need to be. You know,
that's
just because of visibility. It's because of visibility. It has nothing to do with anything else. But
regardless of who you are, if you are in front of a camera, you're somebody's role model, whether anybody thinks you're a role model or not, whether you think you're a role model or not. My kids watch YouTube like it's going out of style, and they don't realize that they put them to a higher level of scrutiny. They treat them like a role model.
Sure.
They want to be like that. They want to mimic that. They want to play the games that they're playing. They want to do the things that they're doing. And I think what he failed to realize is that whether he knows it or not, or likes it or not, he is a role model.
Yeah, but he's the kind of the level of comprehension or level of what for lack of a better term, the level of give fuckitude that he's got.
Yeah, he has no fucks.
He has no fucks left to give.
Yeah, they're gone.
Correct.
And so
we should have a thing for the fourth seat, the fuckitude meter.
Yeah, I mean that would be great if we could put that in there. You know, the give a fuck, you know, the give a fuckitude or whatever. I don't care what it is.
I mean,
but the fact of the matter is quite simple. He doesn't have respect for himself. He doesn't give a fuck if other people look up to him or disrespect him or whatever. I mean, he's out to have a good time. Guy's got millions of dollars, and it's all going to be gone by, you know.
It's not just to have a good time. It's that he feels like if he does those things, he will feel better. It you know, that's ultimately what it is. And I know that because I spent my whole 20s trying to do that. You know, I
think for the most part, we all have a moment where we do it. Some, their moment is longer, and others, their moment is shorter. But at the end of the day, we all have our moment where we do that.
Yeah, well, and I think, you know, for some people it's more profound. Obviously, for Johnny Football, it's way more profound than oh man, I don't know what I'm going to do between high school and college kind of thing. Or
oh no,
you know,
he wants to make a career out of it.
Job at Applebee's. You know, and the thing is, I feel like, okay, yeah, we can say he's trying to make a career out of this, but it is really because he's in a great amount of pain. I can honestly say that I feel like that's what it is.
Yeah,
his dad is coming out and saying he thinks his son will die. It has nothing to do with wanting to be out in the party scene. It has to do with, I have pain. I need help, and I can't fix it myself. But I'm trying to the wrong way.
Yeah, but at the same time, we can't look at that and I'm not saying you are doing this, but I think a lot of people do this, especially when it comes to celebrities or athletes or things along that nature. Look, the company that I work for, if I were to get arrested for slapping the shit out of my wife, I'd lose my job. Plain and simple. I'd lose my job. He slaps the shit out of his girlfriend, and there's this huge crime.
He gets suspended on Twitter.
Yeah. Yeah,
at worst, he gets suspended.
And at worst, he gets suspended, but they haven't even handed that out yet.
Correct.
You know?
Well, he's getting the worst suspension. He's getting fired.
Well, so yeah, he's getting fired from a team, but he's not getting suspended by the NFL yet. And obviously that's...
Isn't that the kind of fired like you saw in the Catholic Church?
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Oh, let's just move them to another... that's not really getting fired.
Yeah.
Well, the thing about it is,
to another team.
This kind of thing is not helping his ability to get a job, right? I agree. It really makes him a target for one person, and that's Jerry Jones. The only person that really is going to want him now is Jerry Jones, because he's going to get a Dallas Cowboys mention every time Johnny Football's in the news for passing out in the gutter. So
yeah, it's not going to be Johnny Manziel anymore. It's going to be Dallas Cowboy Johnny Manziel.
Yeah, quarterback Johnny Football Manziel.
Yeah.
/org.com.
Yeah,
all that shit that they get.
I just it's sad that I understand that if the guy's in pain, he's in pain. If the guy's crying out for help, he's crying out for help. The problem is you got to do something about it. And
correct. And the thing I'm saying to you too is it took a long time for me to realize it, right, and finally do something about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now I can say, yeah, that's exactly what needed to happen, and that's why I'm saying, that's why his dad is coming out there and saying more help is necessary because he's not going to realize it till he dies. And
here's the scary part: he wouldn't be the first. There are other football players that went that route.
Actors, whatever. There's a ton of them. There's a thing called the 27 Club, and I would say those people are in a great amount of pain too.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's sad. It's sad that we have to talk about this at a level that we are, because it just shouldn't be an issue when you are given that kind of an opportunity. I mean, I grew up playing football as a kid, playing football in high school, and I would have loved the opportunity to be able to go to college and play football and get drafted into the NFL. And it would have, for lack of a better thing to say, it would have killed me to think that my parents would have looked down at me, looked down upon my behavior after I made it to the highest level of success that you can achieve as a football player. I mean, overall number 1 draft pick, so much talent, absolutely incredible athlete. And that's just one thing that he pissed away, And
I'd like to say that when my kids are older and they're about that age, they're going to feel comfortable coming to me if they have a significant problem.
Yeah, no,
I don't know what it would be like to be the dad going on television saying, my son needs help or he's going to die before he's 24, because that kind of elicits to me his dad doesn't have that ability to talk to his son about this anymore. Like, it's beyond that level.
For whatever reason.
There needs to be an intervention for whatever reason.
Right.
And it scares me now to think that could be a relationship with one of my boys 20 years from now.
I can also say this about my personal situation. Obviously, again, it may not translate specifically into this one, but, I boxed myself in big time. I didn't want to reach out to my friends and talk to them because I felt like it was not – I didn't want to make it someone else's problem. And I kept telling myself no one else wants to hear my crap, right? So I would sit at the bar and drink. And then I would go and put other people's lives at risk by drinking and driving. And then I would go home and make more poor choices by having poor conversations with the people I loved. And, that's the thing that I told myself is no one cares. I might as well drink until I feel good. And that's the thing I see happening in this case, where the dad is just like, I can't do this anymore because, he just, all he does when I say something is go to Las Vegas and party. He goes out to the bunny ranch and feels better for 5 minutes and, and all that shit. That's where I see that one going. It's just, he's so sick that he can't hear that he needs help. And it's getting there.
And Tony, I don't know what to say other than when you're on when every news show in the country, every sports show in the country is talking about you, the fans of Cleveland, the fans of his alma mater, everything like that. When they're all out there saying we care about this guy, we care about this guy, we care about this guy. It's a little different than when you, Justin, or myself, when we're sitting there depressed and not knowing where to turn, because we don't always see that. You know, I mean,
But
I
then
know
again,
that,
I mean,
that
you feel like the light's shining down on him, but he's still putting himself into a box where he cannot see that light shining on him.
absolutely,
still doing
I understand that.
He's telling himself that they're just talking about it to make news, right? Not that, and that's this part of his brain that's depressed is saying it's not because they care about me and want me to have help. It's because they need to generate money for their station or whatever. Because talking about create viewership.
At the same time, I think that in a lot of ways, I think if they do file charges, if they do go and arrest him, I think that you know, I think that at this point, I think that'll be the best thing that could happen for him.
Yeah, but he's already left
your
rehab
family.
twice.
Yeah, I'm not talking about rehab. I'm talking arresting his fucking ass and throwing him in jail for domestic abuse, for assault and battery. When you rupture someone's when you rupture someone's eardrum, you know, it's more than just a weekend stint at rehab. You know, they can not only sentence him for the domestic battery, they can sentence him to rehab and not even let him fucking out until whenever they fucking feel like it. I mean, that's what happens. I mean, at this point,
it's par for the course.
At this point, a judge is going to say to him, "Hey, you know, you're a danger to yourself and others, and we think that you need to be locked up." And it's going to be an indeterminate amount of time until we feel that you're not a danger to yourself or others, and they can do that.
It still comes back around on this 360 to. It comes all the way back around. Everybody can impose what they want on him. It's still, again, the mention in our comments also. It has to be his choice. He has to finally decide, I want this help to be productive, and I need help. And the thing about that is it's like, until then, he can get in as much trouble as he wants. He can do all this other shit, and he still needs to pick that. He needs to pick it up himself and carry it. Still. He still needs to make the choice.
And I think that's a very valid opinion, Tony, but I think that it's gone a little bit past that. It's gone a little bit past that, and it's going to take corrective action on the part of whether it's law enforcement or whether it's
for some people, rock bottom really is when you're hit with a book and you have a record. For some people, sitting in jail for an X number of time, being forced to go to rehab.
Unfortunately, I don't know if that's his rock bottom, because a lot of people at his level don't get to learn the word no and what it means.
I completely agree with you. Agree with you.
I think sitting in prison, he's going to learn what it's like to be on the other end of that one, where he's the one saying no and someone else says no. Too bad.
Gross.
I mean, it's sad, but it's probably true.
You made it weird. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
No, you're right, though. You're right. He's going to learn the word no, and that it's useless there, too. But at the same time, I don't wish that on anybody.
Neither do I.
mean,
I don't think anyone does.
Not the right way to get things solved.
Absolutely. But the fact of the matter is,
They definitely don't call that the hard way as a joke. They call it the hard way because some people don't learn the easy way. They have to learn the hard way.
Yeah.
I think with this kind of thing, there is no easy way. You know, there really is no easy way.
I agree with that.
Like every way is the hard way. I mean, there's just the prison way is a harder way and a less desirable way.
Well, if you don't want to go to prison, don't smack the gun around.
Well, yeah.
So I think, and
stop
honestly,
breaking the law, asshole.
That's why I'm saying this over and over and over again.
Don't walk on my lawn.
You know, it comes down to that. It really does. He needed help before he started slapping a woman around, and now he's going to get help whether he wants it or not. And whether or not he takes advantage of that help is going to be up to him. But someone's going to make sure that he at least has a forced opportunity to take advantage of it.
As sad as it is to ask, do we know if this is an issue his dad had?
I have no
I don't.
idea. I don't. I
That
don't.
he learned that's how you treat a woman.
I think
Because if he watched his dad do it, that
Well, I
will
would-
translate.
Quite
I don't know if
honestly,
it's
man. I
just
would hate
that.
to speculate about that. I mean,
I would hate to speculate too, but
I would say that because he does things that alter his perception on life, drugs, alcohol, whatever else, you do different things when you drink that much or do that many drugs. It changes you, and you would do things that you were never taught.
you're right.
yeah.
First-hand experience,
and-
you're right.
And another thing to add on to that is, if this was the way that he felt it is okay to treat women, you would have read about this like you did with Winston in Florida State. You would have read about
Right.
this during his college career. You would have
Right.
seen this. Now, that might not have stopped an NFL team from picking him up, just like it didn't stop the Tampa Bay Buccaneers from picking up Jameis Winston. But who knows? I mean, but it is a problem in the NFL. It absolutely is. It's a problem in professional sports where they feel that they are
There.
above the rules.
I think that's more fair than saying
Yeah,
it's a problem in the NFL. It's an overarching problem with all sports.
And I would
Absolutely.
say it's an overarching thing for anyone that is groomed from a small age to do a specific thing.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
And that's where
Absolutely.
the big problems come from
The-
is how many times, I mean, how often do these people, yeah, okay, it sounds awesome to be a professional athlete and make millions of dollars, but how often do these people truly choose it? Right?
It's usually chosen for them.
How often
That's a good
is
question.
their family member living vicariously through them and forcing them into a
Yeah.
life that they didn't necessarily choose?
Absolutely. It's kind of
Or
like
the pressure of family ties to that thing.
Yeah, it's kind of
a
like
pedigree thing kind of deal. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like watching. It's kind of like watching my wife on the sidelines of my son's soccer game. You know, it just gets out of hand quickly, and I have to go take my son home because he's crying. So it happens, and I knew that would elicit a response. So
You're in trouble now.
nah,
Better lock that door.
it's there's no locks. Oh my God, no, there's no locks on it. We're good.
Here's Mrs. Walter.
So
She's gonna axe your door down.
Cameo appearance this week.
she wouldn't. Yeah, she wouldn't need to. She wouldn't need to axe the door down. She'd have to do is just
Yeah.
turn the knob. I mean, there's no
It's more
lock on it.
fun. It's more fun to axe it down. I mean, it's more photogenic. It's way more photogenic. Shit. Well, this is pretty heavy subject matter, and I mean, we've been talking about it for 40 minutes. Maybe we should talk about something that, someone's probably been clawing their desk apart with because they're wearing some really just gross looking sweater. So
It's a half zip.
yeah.
It's the just the half zip. So
Oh, well, if that's all you want to talk about, let's move on then.
well, I think that I think you're absolutely right. I think it was a very heavy topic, and
Yeah.
but at the same time, it's a very relevant topic, especially if we were to take that and dig more into the different issues that are going on with these similar circumstances with professional athletes and stuff like that. So, what is it? A contest between people right now to see who can get
I
the
know,
most?
someone felt bad that I was leading in the props for so long. So I guess you two
Yeah.
get to
Well,
win.
I'll tell you what. Here you go, buddy.
Hey, Mongo win!
But yeah, no, the Super Bowl was, by many people, many blogs, many non-sports blogs, many non-sports magazines called it the most the most atrocious or most boring Super Bowl of all time, and it seems
They
like
are wrong.
they are absolutely wrong.
They were
And I think
so
that
wrong.
all the sports blogs and ESPN and stuff like that, people are saying it was one of the greatest defensive battles they've ever seen, and I
Oh yeah.
I tend to agree with the latter rather than the former on that it was an absolutely incredible defensive matchup. I mean, the sheer the absolute sheer stoppage that the defense put on both sides of the ball. I mean, you can't discount Carolina's defense. They held Denver under 200 total yards of offense.
And yeah, like to mention the losers a little bit here. I think Josh Norman has totally lived up to the hype he's been getting all year long.
Yeah, and he's going to get some of that
some
money in the offseason here.
And if he doesn't, then somebody a fool.
Yeah, well, if he doesn't, then I'm sure Denver will be just happy to pick him up too.
Boy, yes. I pooped a little bit from excitement from that. Because that would be amazing. Talk about the best secondary ever assembled right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
All they would need is Joe Hayden or even old as hell, what's his name in New York, the Jets, Darrelle Revis.
Yeah,
man,
Darrelle Revis,
put that stuff together.
Yeah, I think that would be awesome. But no, the game itself was great. And I think that the last probably 20, 25 minutes of the game were probably the best of the game. It's when you started seeing the defenses making huge moves. You started seeing Peyton Manning being put under pressure, serious pressure for the first time all game. You started
all
seeing
the little things that were a factor in the beginning of the game became way more poignant because of the constant wearing down and the mentality of a defensive line that if they keep harrying it, it's eventually going to become more and more.
And what was it? It was like 34-26 for the time of possession. Does that sound about right? Carolina had about 34 minutes.
Into it.
Okay,
I never get that deep into it. Besides, I know that you're obviously heartbroken that Carolina lost. So
I was tore up. I mean,
I'm sure you had that Broncos shirt FedExed in so that you could be a front runner now. So.
No, if I'd have had to FedEx the Broncos shirt in, I would have gotten the white one. That was the coach's sideline jacket. This is just licensed gear. It was actually an early Valentine's Day gift from my wife. So that and
how important it is for you to pretend you're number one. Yeah,
I can put on my stocking cap.
Yes,
over my headphones.
I love those with the fleece lining inside.
There you go. Those are great. Looks kind of distorted because it's over the headset, but I mean,
your head's actually just that big now.
I'm not shilling for the Denver Broncos at all right now, and I'm just a fan. So,
Beck is totally envious of you right now.
Well, it's been 18 years that I've been waiting to see this happen again. Since the 97-98 seasons, and seeing John Elway hoist that trophy was incredible. Going out as a Super Bowl MVP, giving it all he had, and seeing Peyton Manning do the exact same thing, with the exception of the MVP, obviously, which was well earned by Von Miller.
Very well. It led to 14 points.
It led to 14 points. Absolutely.
It led to the gap that they had.
Yep. And then performances, Akeem Talib had some, he probably, to be fair, he probably should have been thrown out when he tried ripping the guy's head off and throwing him out of bounds.
Amen.
His best play was actually when he ate shit on the stage going up to the NFL Network.
And then he got up. I love going viral. It was great.
Yeah,
but
and then he told the world he was going to make love to his wife. Which
he's going to be. What did he say? He's going to be all up inside her or something, all the way in her or something like that.
He said, "We going to be in it."
What's that?
"We going to be in it" was the direct quote.
Yeah, so, hey, good for him.
Wow.
But, I think there were definitely some plays that people questioned. I know the catch that people, I call it an incomplete catch. I know some people call it a complete, the majority of people call it a complete catch. But looking at it from just a simple rule standpoint, the rule is you have to maintain possession of the ball without it moving after it touches the ground. Because the ball can touch the ground as long as it doesn't move, right?
Yeah.
Right. But when he rolled over, the ball came loose and went in the air again, right? So obviously the ground caused a shift in the ball, making it an incomplete pass. That's the rule. And that's how the NFL explained it. And normally
the NFL, it was so early in the game. To me, I don't know if that changed the momentum too much by challenging it.
I think it could have. I think the challenge is what changed the momentum. I think that wasting his two challenges in the first quarter changed the momentum of the game.
Absolutely.
And to answer a quick question, someone's asking about what "we" means, and that football is a team sport, so that's what we are going to be up in. It means, I think, football is a team sport, Mel. Nope, nobody. Crickets, fucking crickets. I'm out.
Just fucking Jiminy right there. So,
oh look,
and stop it. We also made it sexual again.
Up in it, Nick. Up in it, it's it's definitely what Tony said. It's a team sport. Man and a woman, man and a man, woman and a woman. Doesn't matter.
53-1.
50.
Who knew Denver was starting a train service?
Yeah. Well, with some of the guys they got on defense, it's kind of a surprise that it took till the end of the season.
Yeah.
It's like they took a play out of Jimmy Johnson's playbook and out at Miami, who they were picking up for their defense in some ways. But I think that overall the game was just an outstanding game for the people that watched the game for the commercials. I think that this is yet probably about the 8th year in a row where the commercials have been absolute horse shit.
Yeah. I think people are just trying too hard this day and age on the commercials.
I think the last good commercial was
silly. You just have to sell a product and show it to a million people or millions of people.
I miss the old days where you had like the Bud Bowl and
the Bud Frogs,
the fun stuff like that. The great commercial. I mean, I was disappointed I didn't see a nationwide commercial at the end of it going, Peyton won a Super Bowl. I would have really liked to have seen that one. You didn't really see it, well,
it's hard to record.
I like the Wiener Dog one.
The Wiener Dog one was pretty good. I will say that. But and my wife liked the Doritos commercial.
Yep, with the baby.
Yeah, the baby shooting itself out of the womb to chase the bag of Doritos. I thought that was great. I know there's probably going to be an issue with some liberal groups that I support,
of course,
because of the way they dealt with it. But it was clever. It was cleverly done. But there really weren't. I didn't see a great Dodge commercial like you'd seen with "So God Made a Farmer," and there really weren't the prolific Clydesdales commercials and stuff like that. I mean, probably the best part. And I didn't watch it live because, during halftime, I'm going to go talk on the phone to people that are watching the game watching the game for the sports aspect of it. But watching the replay of the halftime show, I think that was probably better than any commercial they had. It was definitely some. There
was one Clydesdale
commercial, but it wasn't like the old ones. It wasn't the great
and
Budweiser commercials.
They didn't do more than one that tied them all together like they've done in the past either. They just did the one. It was awkwardly placed, so if you didn't see it, you missed it.
Yeah, and I thought the halftime show though was not anything to sneeze about.
Looking at the replay, I thought it was great. I thought it was great.
Coldplay looked as tired as they would have been for working 9 hours a day all week long to get that 20-minute thing going. I don't know the guy's name. The lead singer just seemed wore out. They just seemed out of it.
To me,
I think it was weird how for a show none of it tied together. Right? It was. Coldplay came out, then Bruno Mars came out, and then Beyonce fell over.
She caught herself.
Yeah, she tried to fall down.
She definitely didn't.
There was no link up. Like before, it's been the pageantry and stuff. Like the last show, even though the Talking Sharks were stupid, it was still a show, right?
Yeah, I think that's fair. But I guess when I'm talking, it's more. I don't think it was as controversial as a lot of the talking heads on the right. And I agree, Beck. Yeah, the Lady Gaga was absolutely. It was no Whitney Houston, which is what I judge basically every national anthem by. But it was definitely second or third as far as best rendition of the national anthem that I've ever seen. It was absolutely incredible. And it doesn't matter if she lip synced it. I really don't care. It was still her voice that did the original version of it. So, and sometimes the simplest version, like Whitney did, is just the best overall. And but I will say the worst performance of the entire, the pregame, the halftime show was Seal singing in the pregame show. That was painful. I mean, CBS cut to commercial halfway through his song. That's how bad it was. Because it sounded like he was just stoned going through the going through the song, and that was probably more painful than anything I saw in there, including Cam Newton running away from that fumble at the end of the game.
He was dancing, man. He's practiced for Dancing with the Stars. He pirouetted really nicely there.
He did.
Dylan, to be fair, somebody yelled bomb.
Somebody yelled bomb? Yeah, probably.
Oh, boy.
Probably. Yeah. And it was probably Cam Newton trying to make an excuse for why he didn't jump in that fucking scrum. But to be fair, the game was pretty much over at that point. The game was pretty much over at that point.
But the game was still 6 points at that point. If he dives on that ball and gets it, there's still maybe some glimmer of light.
Absolutely, but when you look at the
points, slam the door the rest of the way closed.
Tony, when you look at the fact that with 6 minutes left in the game, their coach punts the football.
4.5.
4.5. Punts the football.
4.5 minutes.
There's a much bigger problem than Cam jumping in a scrum. And
but I will say that because Cam is a catalyst on the team, his attitude throughout affects the way the rest of the team plays. And the fact that he acted like a 14-year-old kid that didn't get to go to prom that year was really telling of the whole game as a whole. His head was down all the time. He was doing the all over the place, and he wasn't doing the smiling or the dancing. There wasn't much to smile or dance about. I realized this. However, because he is the leader of the team, he affects the way the rest of the people perform. And that's where we see this ultimate thing happening where Von Miller gets 2 strip sacks, right?
Hold on. Does anybody want to cover that?
Well, I think
because it wasn't just Cam Newton. There were other players that didn't have their hand on their heart.
Yeah,
and if you look at the military,
it's not a requirement.
The military didn't have the hand.
It's only the Star Spangled Banner.
No,
the Star Spangled Banner is the only one that has this thing as part of the
well, and that's
of it.
the national anthem, the Star Spangled Banner. They're required to remove their hats. They're required to remove their helmets, which they all did. Cam even took the towel.
All of our military had their hands to their side.
That's because they were in formation.
And
when
also,
you're in formation, you stand at attention.
That's can now salute now though if they want to.
I think if they're in uniform, I don't know. I'm not an expert on this, but
never mind. But the hand over the heart, I know for sure, is not a requirement of the national.
Well, and it's not a requirement for anything other than the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, right. Let's be clear. If you're saying the Pledge of Allegiance, you place your hand over your heart. That's how it goes. If you're standing in a football uniform, you're not a member of the five uniform branches of the U.S. government, U.S. military. You don't have to salute. You don't have to. So I don't have an issue with that. They all stood. They all showed respect. They all sang along and did the right thing that way. So to answer that question, I think it was it's typical. It's typical. I think most of us in our living rooms sat down and watched that. Most of us didn't stand up and stare at the flag on the TV or the nearest flag to us. So, it's
right.
6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
Dylan, you might know the answer to this trivia, but the hand over the heart for the Pledge of Allegiance never used to be the thing, but it was changed. My question is, do we know the year it was changed and why? Dylan, don't answer if you know.
I have no idea.
I have no idea either.
Was that when they put changed. In God We Trust, and was that 56 or something like that, 52 or 56?
No, it was actually changed in the late 30s from a symbol, something more pointing your arm straight out.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it was after the rise of National Socialism in Germany. Yeah,
right.
Yep,
because our typical salute to the flag was to point directly at it with our arm out towards it.
Yes, absolutely.
And that was changed. That was changed when the national salute of the National Socialist Party was to point straight at Mr. Hitler. Yeah.
Well, another stupid fact along that route for those of you who are members of the Moose Lodge or have family members that are 90 years old that are members of the Moose Lodge like I do. They used to call, prior to World War II, they called their I think it's called their exalted ruler or something like that. They used to call him the Supreme Hitler because Hitler means leader.
What?
Yeah, Hitler means leader. That's the definition of the word Hitler.
And that's actually Adolf's last name isn't actually Hitler. He did change it.
Is that true?
He has a very Jewish name. I don't remember what it is, but
interesting.
Yeah, because he's half Jewish, so he had a Jewish name.
Well, he was part Jewish. I don't know if it was half. I think he was half.
Either way.
Yeah, something like that. It doesn't matter. He just hated himself, so he felt the need to kill several million people.
And he hated his dad. And
or
he
mother.
couldn't be a painter either.
Hashtag daddy issues.
Killed everybody.
But yeah, so I don't know. I thought the game was good. I thought that I think that had the game gone the other way, had it been Carolina winning by a couple points rather than Denver, I think I still would have thought it was a good game. I'd have been disappointed that my team didn't win, but shit, at least it wasn't like 2 years ago,
right?
Which was, I think that one of the things that someone said on the rundown when they talk about the teams before the game, they were talking about when Denver loses, they lose big. And then they do a rundown of getting beat by 40 or more points by, San Francisco, by Seattle, by the New York Giants, by the Cowboys, by the Redskins. I mean, it's brutal the beatdowns that Denver's taken over the years. I think the closest game was like 10 points that Denver played against the Giants. I think it was 24-14 or something like that, or.
You're talking in Super Bowl history?
Super Bowl history. I mean, Denver has 2 of the top 3 blowouts in the history of the Super Bowl. So, what did Beck say there? You have a quarterback talking about retiring to win. Well, I think that's fair. I just I don't know.
I think it's more for himself than anything.
Yeah, I think it's more to cement his legacy. Yeah, go out on top. The defense can't carry this team for another season, especially with some of the – I mean, they're going to have to let some of these players go in the offseason. I mean, you've got a bunch of free agencies coming up, and if Manning leaves, that gives like another $16 or $18 million onto the cap.
What do you guys think the chances are of Denver picking up Wentz and having Peyton groom him next year?
Wentz is going to have no chance of getting picked up by Denver. Wentz is going to go in the first. Yeah, I mean, he would have to fall the 31st. Denver's got the 31st overall pick, having obviously New England. Nope, 31st. New England doesn't get a first round pick this year. They lost their first round pick. So Denver picks. Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, Denver picks 31st this year, and Carson Wentz is going to go in the top 5. Either Cleveland's going to pick him up, or Dallas is going to pick him up. What's that?
He's going to the combine. Him and another guy are going to the combine from NDSU this year. I heard that today.
Yeah, it's going to be.
I would advise against it for a lot of guys. Do a pro day instead.
I agree.
The combine just seems to bring out the worst in people.
I agree. I think that but at the same time, I think that Carson Wentz, he's probably gonna get picked up by the Cowboys if I mean, I'd hate to see him go to Cleveland. Cleveland destroys quarterbacks.
Cleveland would be a horrible place. I even say Dallas would be a horrible place for him.
Dallas would be. I mean, shit. I'd like to see him go to Denver. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see him start. I don't even care if he's groomed by Peyton Manning. Peyton's done. We need Peyton Manning to retire this year as a Denver fan. Not because I want him to go out on top, but because we need the cap room. We need to keep Von Miller. We need the money.
We need there to not be a problem at the top. There needs to not be a log jam for who starts.
Yeah.
Because you have 2 guys that can start right now. And I say, unfortunately, the younger guy wins, not because of his age, but because of his ability. He's got a higher ceiling now, whereas Peyton Manning's head hits the ceiling when he thinks about how his career is going.
Yeah. Well, and I think his dad made it pretty clear. I think Archie's got a pretty good idea of what's going on in Peyton Manning's head. I know that they probably talk about it, or I would think that they talk about it. I don't know. But I like what Archie said when he goes, I think it's very unlikely that Peyton will be playing with the Broncos next year, and I think that it's very unlikely that Peyton will be playing anywhere next year. No team's going to pick him up. And Denver needs the $16 or $19 million, whatever it is, that they get back. I mean, Manning's only got 2.2 guaranteed on his contract next year, and Denver needs the cap. I mean, right now I think they've got $22 million left in their cap. If they can get $16 million or $18 million back, that'll give them $40 million to work with. That means that they can,
2 players.
Yeah, they can pay Von Miller $20 million, make him the highest paid defensive player in the NFL. and then they can work on solidifying some of those other guys that they can get for $7-8 million a pop and go back on the free agent market. Plus, they'll be able to. They could draft a replacement quarterback in the first round because there are 2 or 3 solid quarterbacks available in the draft, and only 2 are projected to go in the first round. I don't know if I see Osweiler as the salvation of this team. He had a quarterback rating somewhere around 86. He had a passer rating even lower than that. I mean, he was barely above Manning in the 7 games that he started compared to Manning's 9 games that were started.
But, you saw a different tone in life to the offense at the time.
He did, but
the running game was more smooth. That opened up the lanes in the passing game. Unfortunately, they ran with the same mentality as what they did with Manning, and they really didn't go down the field that much.
Correct. And even when they did, Osweiler was throwing interceptions. Osweiler fumbled the ball. Osweiler made the same mistakes that Manning was making. And for a guy that's 6'8" and can run, 17, 18 miles an hour with the football, he sure as hell wasn't doing any of that.
Right. When it it's a big systemic issue. And that's where it came down to the big difference in the Super Bowl here was the offensive line played a really good game, honestly, for the most part.
Yes, they did.
They were opening up good lanes in the running game. Obviously, there were some times where there were pressure and Manning couldn't get the time he needed. But there was one play, I think he got 6 seconds to look around.
Yeah.
And it was the coverage that made it not happen.
Yeah.
That made it
and that's why I said at the top of this conversation or at the top of this topic, the job that Carolina's defense did was incredible. They shut down Denver's receiver core. I mean, really, the only success you saw was the 2-point conversion that they got, which was a beautiful throw, and I was really happy to see.
It was Peyton Manning's foresight to run that play again. A second time during that drive within 2 plays.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you look at what the Panthers were able to do defensively, it was incredible. I mean, everyone talks about Denver's defense. Yeah, Denver's defense shut down Carolina. I mean, Carolina was yet another victim of Denver's defense where Denver didn't allow them to get over 300 yards, but Carolina didn't allow Denver to get 200. Denver's biggest play of the game came on a punt return.
Second biggest was the one pass to Sanders, and then the third was that 19-yard run. Yep,
and that was it. And none of those led to a touchdown.
Yep.
Denver kicked 3 field goals
or a turnover. In one case, there was a turnover in that side of the field too.
Yeah, there was a turnover that happened in the end zone. There was a turnover that happened on the 1.5-yard line. Mm-hmm. So, Carolina's defense did an amazing job for what it was tasked to do. It did an amazing job for what it was tasked to do. Unfortunately, their offense didn't help them out. Luckily, Denver's defense did all of their work inside the 10-yard line to secure a touchdown and secure a fumble recovery.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, sir. Well, there's my analysis. I think if the offensive line's better, Osweiler has way more upside. There it is.
Well, and I think if Denver's smart, they go for a different quarterback rather than Osweiler.
You can try, but I don't know if there's a lot of guys out there.
Trade Cleveland, your number 1, number 2 pick, and Brock Osweiler for the number 2 pick overall.
The number 2 pick overall.
Actually, and you don't think there's any chance Wentz goes later than 5?
I would take Von Miller. I'd take Von Miller and for the number 1 overall pick and Brock Osweiler.
Even
though we don't need a quarterback. We just need a better executive office.
Yeah, you do. One that's
we're turning into the Cleveland Browns real fast.
Yeah, but Justin, to answer your question, no, there's no way Wentz goes later than 5th. There's no way.
I mean, there's still time for him. There's still time for his stock to go down.
Yeah, there is.
Higher draft order is going to look different in a month and in 2 months, right before the draft.
Yeah.
Now, what is Combine and what is the other thing you were talking about?
Okay, so Combine takes place in Indianapolis every year, where they invite a select amount of players that they think are going to go in the first couple rounds of the draft to come in and basically show off their vertical, their 40 time, the amount of pull-ups they can do, all kinds of stuff
evaluation.
It's a skills evaluation.
And what's the other one?
And when Tony was talking about pro days, that's where you go and you audition for a team.
And it's not just that. You actually invite the teams to your location, and you have a planned workout that you're going to show off. So in some cases, like Jameis Winston, for instance, in his pro day, he designed I think they did like an Oklahoma setup, which is a 7-player setup. You kind of do a stick offense and you run some plays. And he threw the ball 66 times or 68 times and made 66 of those throws. Yeah. So it was designed for him to show off that he can make a high percentage of throws in a lot of different values. But that's the reason the pro day has such high values. They actually practice to show it. Whereas in the combine, you're put on the spot, right? It's impromptu. It's showing off your physicality and your ability to improvise quickly.
Yep, absolutely.
And that's why some people don't perform very well there, because they're not necessarily the epitome of physique and physical acumen. So they have a pro day to show off their intelligence or their ability to have a good practice or learn a system, that kind of thing.
Well, and Tony, one of the reasons that I think that Carson Wentz is going to go so high, and I think that a lot of the analysts do, is because when you look at the tests that they give these guys outside of the physical tests, you look at the mental acuity tests that they do and things along that nature. He was a 3.9 GPA.
He was up there.
And again, he wasn't taking classes that were pushover classes.
He's something like some sort of engineer or something degree.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would like to see Carson Wentz get picked up by a solid team. I agree with Tony. I don't want to see him at Cleveland. I don't want to see him at Dallas.
Right.
That's something that really concerns me. Not because I think Dallas will eat up a quarterback, but because I don't want to have to cheer for a North Dakota boy playing for fucking Dallas. That's just my opinion.
It's not even just Dallas. It's Jerry Jones in general. I mean,
fuck that guy. Fuck him.
Yeah, he's a prick with a capital P.
Yeah, he's a prick with a capital everything. I mean, he's just a piece of shit.
All caps prick.
All caps fucking prick. If you were to wake up my son right now and ask him about two people, it would be Tom Brady and Jerry Jones, and he would call Tom Brady a cheating piece of shit and Jerry Jones a fucking asshole. And it's just
a vocabulary.
Well, I teach him a couple things. 5-year-old definitely needs to learn the way of the world. And I think that
he needs to be worldly. He needs to drop the F-bomb every other word.
He needs to understand, and he needs to make sure that others understand that Jerry Jones is a fucking piece of shit and Tom Brady is a cheating piece of shit. That's just how it goes. Just how it goes. And
so
if your
why
kid
didn't he play for the Cowboys?
Why? Who doesn't play for the Cowboys?
Brady.
I agree. Right in. Oh, I'd love to see Brady as a Cowboy. I'd love to see Brady as a Cowboy. I think that would be.
Get up in it. Ever. Get up in it, Tony.
Sorry, this chair is amazingly painful.
Yes, I'm sitting in a nice plush chair too.
Yeah, it's not only uncomfortable. I'm pretty sure it's going to collapse at any second. So every time I move a little bit, it just wobbles from one side to the other.
Yeah, I agree with Beck. Time for a new chair.
It's not even my chair. It's actually still on loan from the Saturday. The Saturday I had a few people over because as my house stands right now, I did not plan ahead of having more than one person in my house at a time. So I had for a long time just one chair, and then and it was like an oversized one-person chair, and then I got a sofa, and so now I'm up to 4. But with the seating.
Are you reading these comments? Beck, you're killing it. We got to turn into the show one of these days.
That the thing about it is, though, my name is going to stay. I can't change it to Humpty Chunk, even if I can't put myself back together again.
We could have Beck write a song called the Humpty
Chunk. Well, I think we found your name, Dylan. You could be Humpty Chunk.
Definitely plan on hoping not to live up to that. I don't want to be breaking any furniture or anything like that. So,
I feel like that could be a rap song too. Humpty Chunk could be a nice rap song.
Humpty Chunk,
where
the chunk.
The what is it? I guess the bridge would be people just chanting Humpty Chunk, Humpty Chunk.
Yeah, that's exactly what it would be, Tony.
Oh,
That's exactly what.
do the Humpty. Do the Humpty Chunk.
Do the Humpty Chunk.
All right. Well, I think we've exhausted that topic, and there's a
sports.
You're gonna regret those words when we have a top 10 record label.
What am I gonna do? I'll go. You guys talk about sports. It's all good.
yeah.
That really limits your. If we just stick to sports, that really limits your talking time, doesn't it?
Basically, what it'll come down to is this, Justin.
Everybody voted Justin off the island.
Make sure you hit record, and then we'll tell you when to stop recording.
Yeah,
and I think we might all be good at that point.
No. We'll say, hit record, and then we'll say, get the fuck out for an hour and come stop the recording. See you smoke a couple cigarettes and come back.
And for no kidding. And for those like Beck was saying, somebody's an outsider's opinion. I agree, and that's definitely part of the plan. Basically, this is the third and final pre-show that we're doing before we actually really start pushing the show, pushing the topics, and bringing guests on board. We do have a lot of outside opinions that are going to be brought on the show. We've lined up a lot of good guests that are going to be coming in. We'll be having guests from, depending on the topic that we're talking about, but we've got some topics that are coming up that are going to be science related, stuff like that. We'll have guests from the Sanford National Underground Laboratory that are doing the I think it's what is it called, the Dunix Deep Underground Neutrino Experiment. They'll be joining to talk about some stuff like that. It's definitely not all about sports. Today was sports. It was a big week for sports, and so we chose that as a topic. But we've got other great guests lined up that'll be jumping on the show. We've got mathematician and climatologist that'll be hopping on the show here in the near future, talking about more than just climate science and stuff like that, but really to give us a perspective of exactly what's going on and what's happening with the science behind climate change, as well as the changes that we can expect because of that. There'll also be political conversations. There'll be religious conversations. He's a mathematician and a climatologist. He does both. But I don't know if that's really a mathematician climatologist. It might be. I don't know. He practices. Fuck, I don't know. I don't know what all mathematicians do. They're just fucking crazy. That's all I gotta. They're all fucking nuts. They can make shit up and say, no, I got numbers to prove it. You have to believe them.
And despite the guess, I think we all feel we've got enough hot air inside our bodies to talk about it.
And I think that's a lot of the reason why we're going to have other people on the show as well, to try to cool that air down.
Right, We need some people that actually know the fucking thing that they're talking about instead of us just making shit up as we go
Absolutely.
along. So.
And anytime we need a perspective from someone else other than Tony that follows a losing football team, we can definitely have York on the show as a Tampa Bay fan.
That's how I know so much about football. It's all the pain and anguish. It makes me study and figure out ways that my team can actually be good. And if they listen to me, we might have won 4 games instead of 3. So.
Yeah, but if they listen to you, you wouldn't have one of the top picks in the draft this year. So,
well, you don't need a top pick every year to win football games.
No, pretty soon you start running out of money to pay those top picks.
Yeah, there's other organizations have proven you can do it with managing a real budget and actually having a competent front office and actually designing a team around a coach instead of just having a dearth of talent and firing a coach every other year.
Absolutely.
The whole mentality of the NFL right now of fire a coach every other year is absolutely ridiculous and needs to change tomorrow.
No, that's an extremely valid point. I mean, you look at what was it? Lovie Smith just got fired,
which is ridiculous.
Which is absolutely ridiculous. Outstanding coach. You have to give coaches time to build a program. It would be like hiring a college football coach, getting rid of them after one season when they haven't even had a chance to bring their own recruits on. So it's
totally.
Absolutely insane when they're doing stuff like that.
But and the thing about it is, I mean, the team does not revolve around 53 players. It revolves around a team of coaches that mold 53 people to a platform.
Yeah,
right?
to a plan that they've designed to be successful.
It doesn't matter how talented anybody is. You can't win football games if you're always out there playing backyard football because your system is always fucking broke.
Yeah.
And that's where, like, when we were talking earlier about Cleveland, they're a terrible organization because they can't keep their front office in line. They can't keep their coaching in line.
Bro, they can't even keep a front office. That's the problem. They can't even keep a front office.
Right. Well, they keep turning that over, so then they keep turning the coaching over, so then they keep turning the talent over, and it's just a mill. Like, there's about 8 teams in the league right now that I would call the minor league of the NFL, because what they do is they get these high draft picks, they sign them, then they trade them away, they lose them to free agency, and then they go somewhere else and they're really successful because guess what? These other teams know that they can't just turn their coaches over or their front office over. They need to have a very specific plan in the front office. They need to have somebody that knows, hey, this coach is going to be here for 5+ years, period. Because we're going to give him 2 or 3 years to get this thing in order. And then the next 2 years, his 4th and 5th year, that's money time, right? Yeah. Start putting the pudding together, right? You can't just be cooking. You can't just be chopping ingredients all day. You finally have to put this meal together. But at
the same time, I honestly believe that you absolutely have to respect the fact that there are times when coaches are going to clash with your locker room, and you can't necessarily keep a coach who doesn't have the buy-in of the players that he's coaching.
Correct. And that's another subtle thing. But at the same time, if you're allowing that coach to build the team he wants and he's actually giving the input up the chain instead of just, hey, here's 53 douchebags that we got. Hopefully you can turn them into a Super Bowl team this year. Yeah. If he actually gets the input on it and says, like Hugh Jackson did. Hugh Jackson only took the Cleveland job because he said, guess what? I am not going to try this Johnny Manziel project. It's over. He's out. He's got to be gone. And that's the only way he took the job. And they said emphatically, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And so to me, that's a guy that's going to have success if they decide to keep him more than a year or 2 years.
But you're giving an example of a team that is bringing in a coach that's allowing that coach to diagnose what the locker room problem is. And the locker room problem is Johnny Manziel on that team. He is a huge distraction to the team from getting better. So by bringing on a coach that's going to do that, or bringing on a general manager that's going to do that, and I think that their general manager decision is absolutely incredible. I'm a huge
they brought in a sabermetrics guy.
Yeah, I'm a huge believer in sabermetrics. I mean, look at what Denver did. They pieced together like the oldest goddamn defense they could possibly find, and it worked for them. Mm-hmm. I think that if you're looking at just raw stats, what do we need? What can we get out of these people? And how productive are they going to be in the last season or 2 seasons that we're able to sign them? I mean,
sabermetrics
when we picked up DeMarcus Ware, when you pick,
it goes into there's sabermetrics for. Obviously, this is going to sound funny, and I don't know if it's true, but it's kind of like. There's sabermetrics for what groceries these assholes buy too. It's like, absolutely. he bought broccoli this week, so he'll probably have a good game this weekend, kind of thing. There's weird analysts for that kind of thing, and I don't understand it myself because sabermetrics seems like kind of voodoo or some type of hedge magic.
Here's the deal. I think
but there's a lot of weird stats they follow and then say, well, this is an answer.
You're kind of confusing what some of sabermetrics is. Okay, so when you're talking about there's the sabermetrics is looking, especially when you break it down into baseball, sabermetrics is looking primarily at on-base percentage, right? OBP. So when you're looking at that, you're looking at how productive they are. So in football, you're looking at yards per catch, you're looking at dropped catches, you're looking at how many plays they were in, the percentage of plays where they were on the offensive side anyway, the percentage of times that the plays went to them, their percentage of success in those plays, their percentage of failure in those plays. On the defensive side, you're looking at hurry-ups, knockdowns. You're looking at how many times they put the quarterback under pressure, meaning any time the quarterback had to move in order to do what they were doing, right? And so on and so forth. Sabermetrics has absolutely nothing to do with the diet and stuff like that. That's
but I'm saying in some regards they go that deep.
But Tony, that's what the old school scouts used to do, and that's part of the problem. is when they're looking at, he's got a hot girlfriend, so he's got great confidence level, or he's got an ugly girlfriend, so don't draft him, or he's a comedian, he's a clown. We don't want that kind of attitude.
No, that's why he's got a hot girlfriend.
And but that's what scouts would look at, was they would look at just weird stuff, instead of looking at how well they could hit, how well they could run, how well they could field. They were just looking at. Yeah.
It sounds like someone's wife has confidence too.
Yeah, definitely. She had the confidence enough to marry that ugly fucker. So, but that's ultimately what sabermetrics boils down to, is just percentage of what you do good in a game. Yeah. And I think that you look at teams like the Boston Red Sox went to a full sabermetrics after the success in Oakland, as what was popularized in the movie Moneyball. And if you read the book and you read on sabermetrics, it's absolutely incredible. And we obviously don't have time to go into sabermetrics tonight, but taking sabermetrics from sports, you can translate it into business as well. And I think a lot of companies are starting to do that when they're determining who they want to keep, who they're willing to get rid of, and things along that nature, simply based on how successful they are with every transaction or customer interaction, or, how many deals they can close versus how many deals they miss, stuff like that. So, because it doesn't matter if you've got in baseball, if you've got a 180 batting average, it doesn't matter if you get on base 60% of the time, whether it's hit by pitch or whether it's walked or what have you. It's just getting on base, because runners score runs. That's what they do.
That's the on base percentage plus is actually the new big one, because they go for hit by pitch, walks, whereas the original on base percentage was straight on base, straight on base from a walk or a hit.
From a walk or a hit, absolutely.
And it didn't have anything to do with if you got hit by a pitch or what was the other stuff?
Walk
like
was a walk. It didn't matter if it was hit by pitch.
And wait, on base percentage didn't include walks before, I think.
On base percentage absolutely did, sir.
Did it?
Absolutely did.
Okay, because the plus one is different. I know it has some other
plus one
intricacies to it that makes it interesting, because it boosts people into a higher category for their viability.
Right. So. And OBP just simply, the plus factor on that is how they get on base. It's not just getting on base. It's breaking it down by walk, hit by pitch, balk, whatever. It's how they get on base. And I think that's an awesome statistic. It really is. It's an absolutely awesome statistic. And pulling that into football, I think, is going to be a really good thing as well, especially for a team like the Cleveland Browns. I mean, they've got a lot of cap room to play with, man. They got a lot of cap room. It's like Tennessee. Tennessee's got a ton of cap room.
And hopefully both, in my opinion, too, like the teams that need big change now, what they really need to, not only are the front office to be stable and a stable coach, but they also need a coach that is going to really think about defense.
Well, and I think
because everybody masses up so hard on the offense, how much is really out there?
Right. And I think that if you look at what some of these teams have gone to in the model, where you look at Carolina is owned by a former player. Their coach is a former player. Denver's run by a former player. You're starting to see more successful teams bringing former players into the front office, into the coaching staff, to really try and drive that success rate, because people relate better to former players. It's a simple fact.
They respond. They
respond because they were there, especially if they were a winning former player. I mean, the players on Denver respond to John Elway because he was there. He went to 5 Super Bowls. And
he's obviously doing something right in an executive role too, and it has nothing to do with the fact that he's a former player. It has to do with some real acumen. Acumen.
Yeah, and absolute solid business
acumen. I think like you just said, the business is where it really comes from. Is the fact that he has. He basically owns all of the car dealerships in the Colorado area.
He doesn't. They just have his name on them.
He doesn't own them?
I thought he had all these
car dealerships.
No, he doesn't own John Elway Nissan anymore.
That's too bad.
He sold all that, and they use his name.
That's money from that anyway.
That's just a sponsorship at this point. But he owns a lot of businesses. He absolutely does.
Right.
I mean, he brought arena football back into the mainstream. He brought a lot of that stuff back into the mainstream. He's invested in other stuff with legends like Kurt Warner and things along that nature. Well,
if he's in the arena football, then he obviously him and Bon Jovi know each other well, and he sounds like a good businessman too. In fact, he was talking about buying the Titans for a while, and I would be more than happy with that because he's had success bringing arena football back to life.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, but yeah, so I guess looking at the time, we're kind of over our time limit for the day.
Which is fine. We planned for this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it went well, but I think we're going to wrap this up because it's kind of getting to that point. So,
Fine.
All right.
Justin, you've been silent for the last 10 minutes. So how about you give us some parting words of wisdom?
Closing thoughts.
Closing thoughts. Words of wisdom.
Words of wisdom from the great bats.
Great putting me on the spot. What the heck?
Okay, that's the words of wisdom, kid.
Yep. Put me on the spot.
Wait long enough.
Stop recording.
Wait long enough, and someone else will say it for you. No, Justin, go ahead.
Wow.
Anything?
Eat your Wheaties.
Eat your Wheaties, kids. You heard it from Justin Batts.
I prefer Berry Colossal Crunch. Thank you.
Fair enough. And I say kids don't do drugs. Definitely don't buy drugs. Become a rock star, and they give drugs to you for free.
And learn
Like
learn the
Dylan.
word how the word no works.
Learn what the word no means. No means no, kids. Go to school. Yes, I agree. And Yorkie, you would be a bland-ass Cheerios kind of guy. So
I like Cheerios.
Not even honey nut, just that stuff that tastes like cardboard.
Don't get tattoos.
don't get tattoos. Then you look
Get
like
lots
you
of
got fleur-de-lis on your wrist. All right, so I'm going to wrap this up for us then. I want to thank everyone for stopping in and visiting. As always, we will be starting this next week. Next week, what is that, the 18th, 17th? Whatever Thursday is. I don't even know. It's a day. Next week, Thursday, 9 p.m.
18th.
The 18th, Thursday the 18th at 9 o'clock p.m. We will be broadcasting
Central.
9 o'clock p.m. Central Time, 10 o'clock Eastern Time, 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock Mountain Time, 7 o'clock West Coast Time, and I think that's something like 5 o'clock in Hawaii. I don't fucking know.
Who needs mathematicians with how fast you can do time zones?
Absolutely.
No shit.
That's because in the last 5 years I've lived in almost all of them. So
Except for the West Coast.
Except for the West Coast.
Yeah, you haven't hit West Coast time yet.
Have not yet. And if I think my wife's made it very clear that that's just not an option. So
the weather's nicer over there, except for the fact that there's no water to drink.
Except for there's no water to drink and there's lots of earthquakes.
Well, you've got that now.
We do have that now.
You have water though, so that's good.
We do have water. But next week, Thursday, the 17th, 9 p.m. Central Time, it's the Junky Chunks. Justin Batts, Tony Sisson, Dylan Walter. Be sure to follow us on Facebook at junkychunks.com, or excuse me, at Junky Chunks. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Junky Chunks. And each of our personal Junky Chunks is Junky Chunks. At Minty Chunks, at Drunky Chunk, and at Dylan Chunk. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it, and we'll hopefully see you all next week. All right, I think we're done recording. Yes,